Russian forces fired another rush of missiles and self-exploding drones in nearly a dozen provinces of Ukraine early Thursday, causing the first attack-related death of the year in Kyiv and killing at least 11 people in all, according to the Ukrainian authorities.
The attacks adhered to Russia's recent pattern of striking power plants and other critical infrastructure about every 2 weeks. However, the latest onslaught came after Germany and the United States upped the ante in Russia's 11-month war by promising Wednesday to send high-tech battle tanks to Ukraine and green-lighting other allies to do the same. Harry Michaels reporting.
The U.S. economy expanded at a 2.9% annual pace from October through December, ending 2022 with momentum, despite the pressure of high interest rates and widespread fears of a looming recession.
Thursday's estimate from the Commerce Department showed that the nation's gross domestic product, the broadest gauge of economic output, decelerated last quarter from the 3.2% annual growth rate it had posted from July through September. Most economists think the economy will slow further in the current quarter and slide into at least a mild recession by mid-year. Davis Richards reporting.
Members of the Senate Intelligence Committee emerged outraged from a 2-year secure briefing with Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines threatening to grind the chamber's business to a halt if the Biden administration does not provide access to the classified documents seized from the current president and former President Donald Trump.
Senators in both parties have claimed the administration is refusing to let them see the materials, even blocking lawmakers with the highest security clearance, like Senate Intelligence Committee members, while the special counsel probes are ongoing over how Biden and Trump handled the classified records while out of office. Haley White reporting.
The White House has unveiled a Renters' Bill of Rights to push lawmakers in the private sector to strengthen tenant protections and make rent more affordable.
While the blueprint for a Renters' Bill of Rights released Wednesday is not a set of laws, it does offer tenants and landlords a set of recommendations intended to support the development of policies and practices that promote fairness for Americans living in rental housing. And it comes at a time when rents are rising dramatically nationwide. Torvi Rodriguez reporting.
This is the latest news headlines. A school board voted Wednesday evening to oust its superintendent weeks after a 6-year-old allegedly shot a teacher in one of the district's schools, and on the same day that the teacher's lawyer said the school administrators were warned that the child had a gun the day of the shooting. The Newport News Public Schools School Board voted 5-1 in favor of a separation agreement and the severance with the superintendent, Dr. George Parker III. The teacher's lawyer alleged that the school administrators had multiple warnings about the boy the day of the incidents. A Democratic National Committee panel voted to give New Hampshire and Georgia more time to make changes that would allow both to be a part of a revamped group of 5 states leading off the party's presidential primary starting next year. But even as they voted 25-0 to extend the compliance deadline until June 3rd, members of the DNC Rules Committee complained about the New Hampshire's ongoing feud with the National Party because the new calendar would cost it the chance to hold the nation's first primary. California voters will decide next year on a referendum that could overturn a landmark new state law setting worker conditions and minimum wages up to $22 per hour for fast food employees in the nation's largest state. Chipotle, Starbucks, Chick-fil-A, McDonald's, In-N-Out Burger, and KFC owner Yum Brands each donated $1 million to save local restaurants, a coalition opposing the law. Other top fast food companies, business groups, franchise owners, and many small restaurants also have criticized the legislation and spent millions of dollars opposing.
Hi, I'm Karen, owner of Lone Star Transfer. If you are a timeshare owner, getting out is probably a top priority. And now that annual maintenance fees are coming due, this ongoing burden and expense is at the top of your list. Thankfully, we can help. Let us do for you what we have done for thousands of others across the country. Our process is done legally, ethically, and quickly. Lone Star Transfer has a 99% success rate and an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau. We are a family-owned business and will personally make sure your experience is a pleasant one. Don't let another day go by with maintenance fees taking your hard-earned money. Give us a call for a no-obligation consultation at 844-284-4863. That's 844-284-4863 or online at lonestartransfer.com. That's LoneStarTransfer.com.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Is the Jeff Santos Show on the Revolution Radio Network. Rebuilding America, together, investing, activism, and supporting the middle class. Now, here's Jeff.
Good afternoon, Americans, and welcome to the Jeff Santos Show. It is great to be with you on this Thursday edition. It is becoming a frozen tundra here in New England. Tomorrow it's below zero. It's already below freezing point here. But we got a great program for you. We're going to talk to our regular Thursday contributor, Mr. Herb Thursday Boyd, will be with us coming up at about 3:10 or so. And then coming up a little bit later is Larry Cohen, back from a couple of weeks being away. We look forward to talking to the former chair, the current chair of our revolution, the former president of the Communication Workers of America. Of course, Herb Boyd, beside being a regular, is a fantastic journalist for the Amsterdam News. You can go to amsterdamnews.com. Check out the latest on Herb. He's got a lot to say on what's happened in Memphis and so forth and so on. Of course, he's also an adjunct professor at City College there in Harlem, New York. The phone number remains the same, 833-545-5333. You can email me, jeff@revolutionboston.com. You can also, of course, post on Facebook and Twitter at Jeff Santos Show. And you can watch us anytime you want on Facebook Live, as well as YouTube and Twitch. We look forward to seeing you there, whether it's live between 3 and 4 o'clock Eastern, 12 and 1 o'clock Pacific time, or, of course, anytime you want. You can pull it up and watch us. So if you are watching today, I am wearing red because Larry Cohen is on video today, and he'll be wearing red on behalf of the Communication Workers of America. It's also because it's pretty cold our studio, so it makes me a little bit warmer than normal. Even with a red sweater over a collared shirt wasn't enough, so I'm like, okay, we got space heaters, thank God. But it is getting chilly outside. It is winter here in New England, as we like to say. Don't pronounce the R. A couple of things before we get to Herb Boyd. I just want to tell you that it is very, very frustrating to be put on hold. And one of the things that I've advised different banks and computer companies and other things, and I'll give some credit here. Apple is one of the very best customer service operations there is. I don't know if people have had problems with them, but we've been very lucky, my family and I. But I will say that there are others that put you on hold, and you wait and you wait and you wait. And it's very annoying. And I say this for a reason on the air, is that, for those who are in government, one of the ways to get people jobs, hire them. Less automation, more humans, better discussion. It actually, people may think this is a little bit over the top, but hear me out. When you get to talk to a person who's a professional customer service person, and they have any skill set, and this probably is women understand communication, I think, better than men in this way. Individually, on the phone, they can sense voice, they can sense patterns, and they know how to sort of, for the most part, they know how to diffuse it. Men sometimes get angry and off you go to the races. If you were to employ more people and rely less on robots, the stress level in this country would go down significantly. I mean, just think about this for a second. If you could actually communicate with the person in front of you when you are tied up in traffic at 4:00, and you knew them or they knew you, you're not going to go road rage on them. You're not going to go road rage on a good friend of yours. Let's just say 2 cars in front of you is your next door neighbor going the same route that you are. But you don't know that because you can't see that far ahead. But that's why to sort of personalize it reduces the tension. And when you automate things, you get rid of any kind of way of personalizing and diffusing the situation. It goes right to where we are with the Memphis situation. If you have people who are skilled, and I always go back to the old TV show, The Hill Street Blues, they would bring in, I think the guy's name was James Skeen. I don't think he's alive anymore. He was the SWAT team guy. Remember the whole SWAT TV show? They had a theme song. It was a big deal in the 70s. And one of the things that Daniel Trevante, character, I think Carl Furillo was his name, is he had to make a decision when to get the Skeen character, the head of SWAT, to knock heads and shoot. They had, SEAL team guys and people that were, specialists in that regard. And then they had the guys who were the negotiators. And the way they portrayed him, is sort of a nebbish guy and, sort of, easygoing. But that's how they would resolve a lot of these cases. We don't have that much in police departments anymore. So those are the sort of things that we got to look at, folks. And again, you employ more people, people have a paycheck, they can buy things, better for the community, on and on. All right, with that, somebody who's good for the community of Harlem is our next guest. He is Mr. Thursday on the Jeff Santos Show. He is the professor at the great City College in New York City in Harlem. He's also the great journalist for the Amsterdam News. He is Mr. Herb Boyd. Herb, are you warm there in Harlem? Is it getting chillier by the hour?
Well, not really where I am because I just adjusted the thermostat.
There you go. Good for you. I got the space heater. I see.
And that's always, we're more concerned with Con Ed here in terms of the skyrocketing cost.
Yeah, it's insane here too.
For energy and heat, boy, oh boy. Yep. Put on another sweater, Jeff. You say you got your red on, huh?
Yeah, I got my red on. It's a Wrigley Field sweatshirt, and I got a couple of layers under that too. So, it's winter here in New England. Well, my friend,
it's getting worse too.
Yeah, it's below zero tomorrow and Saturday too. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, not the skinny dipping weather, my man.
Yeah, you polar bear.
Yeah, exactly. I don't do that stuff. Not for me. Keep me inside. I'll take the trip to Tahiti and then I'll go, jumping in the ocean. So, yeah, you dig. So here's something for you. We've been talking all week about how to deal with what was tragic in Memphis and what came out on Friday night, to the nation, what happened earlier in January. And by the way, let me just thank Al Sharpton for an amazing eulogy yesterday. I thought he was
Mm-hmm.
spot on in so many ways, particularly bringing in the idea that those African American police officers were not only violating the human rights and the civil rights of that young man, Mr. Nichols, but also all the work that was done by people of your generation and forward, Jesse Jackson, Martin Luther King, and all who fought
Mm-hmm.
to get African Americans on the police force, and to see that
Yeah.
happen. First and foremost, I want to get your initial thoughts, because I'm not sure. Well, you were on last Thursday and we knew about it, but I don't think we had seen the video. So your thoughts first on that, and then I want to get your thoughts about how we can finally make a difference. Because frankly, and I was telling this to somebody the other day, I have been bringing you on this show for over 7 years now, and it seems like every other month we're dealing with a brutality by police episode, and I'm getting sick and tired of it. I know you are too. But your thoughts about what you
No.
saw when you saw this video?
Well, you're absolutely right, Jeff. It's all you have to do is just push the button, the repeat button,
Yep.
and come up with comments. We had a bit more than almost like moving into a score of years and having one incident after another. And even as we speak, we're talking about a couple of incidents. Although the gun violence, of course, is always going to be so much a part of our permanent culture these days. And
Yep.
I think one of the things
Tragically.
that, and you're absolutely right in terms of the eulogy that Reverend Sharpton. I mean, he is probably by far, and he's done so many of these things, and I've been present at least a dozen of them over the years, and to personally hear how, and the resonance that he gives to these individuals who otherwise, they're unknown people. We don't know anything about them and their families, and suddenly they're in the spotlight. And suddenly they have to be he has to contextualize that.
Yeah.
He has to make them human again for these individual absolute strangers otherwise. And he's perfected that. I mean, it's amazing.
Yes. Tragically.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right too about the Dr. King and the irony of these black officers,
Right, Memphis.
who wouldn't have those jobs otherwise without the kind of civil rights activity, particularly Dr. King, and of all places in Memphis with the sanitation workers.
Yeah.
So it gives you just another way of exhaling and sucking all the oxygen out of you with these situations. And it's just so reprehensible and intolerable to have these kind of with African American police officers with. And I think the chief said it very well. She said it very well. It was just a horrendous act of inhumanity.
It is. I mean, it's this, and I hate to link it to sports, because I know you and I are big sports fans and so forth. But I thought of when I saw all of these guys kicking and I mean, he's not a very big guy, 125, 145 pounds. I don't know what it was. He's a very thin, slender man. And
exactly.
And these guys were all, linebackers, defensive ends kind of thing in football. What it reminded me of, and in particular, because what we saw with Hamlin in Buffalo not too long ago, is this attack mode in football. I mean, I played in high school. That wasn't very good. But one of the things when you're on defense is to sort of, get the ball carrier, right? And it's this sort of attack, and it's the same kind of, it's now basically to the second level, playing one thing with football. It's paramilitary. It's this gung-ho approach that is learned in the military to get your enemy. We're all on the same side, but they don't think so. And the mentality, Herb, is this concept that if you are black, you are bad guys, and black police officers have to buy into that, or they don't have a job. To me, I want somebody to prove me wrong on that, because I think that's what happens. Because I think these guys go into this and they say, well, look, this is the police that has abused my brothers and cousins and moms and dads over the years. So I'm going to now take a job because it's a good salary, and get, you're a union member, you get all the different pensions and all that. But the buy-in is that, you do with what white police officers for 30, 50, 70, 100 years have been doing. And that to me is the problem here, Herb. It's not like you can just, say, all right, we're going to fix police brutality. The whole mentality is there that the African American person, particularly young male, that's the enemy. That's sick, but that's how it is. I don't know how else to explain it.
Well, you're certainly touching on a couple of key things that we've been discussing for several years now. It's certainly the Gang of Blue, the fraternity of fury.
Yeah.
And as you suggest, and from a sports analogy, is that you hit one of the players on the court and the bench empties. I mean, any further provocation than that, you attack one of our players, and so it's no asking no questions. Can you stop for a moment and ask the referee what's going on? No.
Yeah. No.
One of our players has been assailed, and we're going to respond. So it's kind of a herd mentality.
Yep.
It's kind of like a reflex. It's a reflex that you say, boom, this has to happen. And when you're a Gang of Blue and you're more lethal in your response. And I think what we said earlier is just so absolutely reprehensible and intolerable when you have African Americans. When I first heard it, the thought crossed my mind, oh, please don't let it be black police officers. And there it is, all of them. And of course, it hasn't stopped because it's up to like 7 now, and some EMT folks being dragged in. I remind you of the Elijah McClain situation out in Aurora, Colorado.
Right.
And then, of course, a provocation from the very beginning. And now you have the kind of conflict, the confusing reports is coming. The police are saying one thing, and we're looking at the tapes. But hearing Vice President Kamala Harris, I thought, okay, Sharpton was good with his eulogy, but don't forget what she stressed and got the loudest reaction from the audience. And that was the George Floyd Justice Policing Act need to be passed. We got it through the House before, but the Senate is jammed, and because we got Tim Scott, the only black senator, he's the one who's leading the charge to resist it. That's another one of those ironic things in our history.
Yeah, it's disgusting. And when I think of Joe Manchin, I also, it makes me in cinema too. Both of them, I want to puke. But here's something for you, Herb. Talking with the great Herb Boyd here, great columnist for the Amsterdam News, of course, a adjunct professor over at City College. City College, one of those universities that was free many years ago, including free for our good friend and friend of Herb Boyd and yours truly, Jerry Austin, who went there back in the 1960s. Just something to think about, folks, as we move forward. And with that, one of the things I've been thinking of, Herb, is that, if we're going to end police brutality, to me, it's not going head to head with the police unions and with Republicans. What I look at it as, we need to do something, and Jesse Jackson said this, I think, so eloquently a few years ago to me. And he said, look, I'm sick and tired of hearing from Donald Trump, this 2018. he wants to send troops to the south side of Chicago, National Guard. Don't send me the National Guard. Send me HUD. Send me the Department of Transportation. Send me dollars to reinvigorate our communities. So, send me a way to have health care for the people in the south side of Chicago. And exactly that point. See, I think you got to go at it from rebuilding America, and you got to start the inner city starts first. And let me add one more thing, and I think this is something that your good friend of ours, Mr. Daniels, has wanted for years. I think it's time to talk about reparations, but talk about it in the sense that we are going to make the cities, inner cities in particular, and some rural areas too, but mainly inner cities, we're going to make them whole, because we're going to put the money that was owed to African Americans many years ago, but we're going to make it into a place where we're going to be able to give it to verified local community leaders, not people who are charlatans, but people who actually want to help and have shown success of communities. I saw something in Chicago today, actually, on MSNBC, this community situation. That to me is how you deal with this. So you rebuild it, and you talk healthcare, and you talk education, and you talk about all these things that make a community better. And policing is just one of them, as opposed to just saying, "Oh, the cops are bad," which we know. Oh, what are you going to do about them? Oh, we got to get more mental health professionals. All of that's true. But if you only focus on that, you're going to get resistance. But if you put it into a bigger package, that's how I think you win the day. Your thoughts?
No doubt about it. And my goodness, Jeff, I wish that we had elected officials who had have a similar kind of passion, and not only passion but vision and perspective. And that's absolutely it's missing. And they need to consider those kind of things. And I think you touch on the education in terms of reparations, and that seems to be getting some resonance again. Of course, it's not good as they talk about it in the context of CRT, the critical race theory, or the advanced placement that's going on with Santos down in Florida. And you had the College Board that just a wholesale rejection of it.
Yeah.
And
Santos,
really
by the way,
to,
I already have one idiot destroying my name. I don't need two, but yes, I know what you mean. DeSantis, yes.
Right. Yeah, we talked about that before. But
yes, we have. Yes, we have. You can continue, sir.
But Jeff, it's interesting that you can have the individuals that they use to excoriate there. I mean, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Angela Davis, the late Gloria Jean Watkins, Bell Hooks, she's no longer with us. Of course, Kimberly Crenshaw, we knew that she was going to be assailed. But all of that, my wife and I, we were talking about it this morning and kind of framing it historically and going back, and you do affirmative action and reparations and what was going on in the education arena and the whole standardized acts. That's all is at the critical point for the College Board. Now, the College Board, it came into existence way back in 1899, right here in New York at Columbia University, of all places. But they can take those things over the years and make it so detrimental and so difficult, another hurdle, another barrier for marginalized communities, African Americans, Latinx people to get over. And suddenly you find we can just dismiss all of these progressive parts of that syllabus, that curriculum, are just thrown out, pell-mell, wholesale, no discussion. Because DeSantis says it's ideologically. Yeah, I hear you coming in, Jeff.
Hey, we're running out of time, my friend.
It's always good that we can stop mid-sentence. We can stop mid-sentence because we can pick it up at the same point next week. It's like a soap opera. It'll be right there for us, okay?
Yeah, don't go anywhere. Make sure you stay on that channel. We'll be right back. It's always that way. Herb, thank you, my friend. Godspeed.
Okay, baby. We'll talk later.
Take care of yourself there in Harlem, and we'll talk next week. All the best. Peace out, man.
Okay. Mrs.
All right.
Boyd is listening to you. Okay.
Oh, cool.
She waved
Mrs.
to you,
Boyd,
Jeff.
hello. Keep warm. Mrs. B, all right. It is the Jeff Santos Show. We'll be back. We're going to actually take a call from our good friend Mark and then talk to our good friend Larry Cohen. It's the Jeff Santos.
You don't have to wait for amazing deals on a new floor. Get spring Black Friday deals right now at Lumber Liquidators Flooring. This week, save up to 35% on gorgeous hardwood and waterproof vinyl floors. Plus, we can arrange for installation by professional, independent contractors. And with special financing, you can get started today. These are the floors homes are built on. Lumber Liquidators Flooring.
Haul packages for a living? A gas-powered Mercedes-Benz Sprinter delivers. Transport people? A Sprinter van with 0% financing is a 5-star idea. If food delivery is your thing, then a gas Sprinter caters to you. And if you're a general contractor, the Sprinter with 0% financing nails it. With innovation, safety, and technology, Sprinter is built for you. And it's built for your bottom line with 0% financing. The Mercedes-Benz Sprinter, starting at just $33,790.
Are you living with pain? I was, after a nasty fall. I got relief with 1 Hour Pain Relief. I'm Barry Yarconi, president, and here's Lisa, a Marine who was injured in Iraq.
After surviving an explosion, I was on horrible painkillers for lingering head, shoulder, back, and knee pain. But I hated the dangers and side effects. My friend told me about 1 Hour Pain Relief, and now I'm off the drugs.
1 Hour Pain Relief is the result of 15 years of research on an amazing extract from hops, the plant used to flavor beer.
Whether your pain is from an injury or just aging, you get safe, all-day relief in less than 1 hour.
We're so sure you'll love 1 Hour Pain Relief too that we'll send you a 1-week trial for just a small shipping charge. Call 800-269-9500 right now. That's 800-269-9500. There's no gimmicks, no obligation, no automatic shipments. Stop living with pain. Call 800-269-9500 for your 1-week trial or visit onehourpainrelief.com. That's 800-269-9500.
I'm Rich Rosario. 1 in 4 heart attack survivors will have another cardiovascular event. Award-winning author and American Heart Association volunteer Dr. Nisa Goldberg explains the hidden risks.
Many people don't realize that managing hidden risks like untreated high blood pressure, unhealthy eating habits, and poor medication adherence may reduce your risk for having another heart attack.
The American Heart Association's Secondary Heart Attack Prevention Initiative, sponsored by Bayer, reminds you to follow your doctor's recommendations to help reduce your risk factors.
Take your medication as prescribed. Certain medicines like aspirin can lower your risk of another cardiac event. Aspirin is not appropriate for everyone, so be sure to talk to your doctor before you begin an aspirin regimen. It's important to understand your medications and take them correctly. Manage risk factors like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, and diabetes. Quit smoking, eat healthier, and get active.
Learn more ways to thrive after a heart attack at heart.org/oneisenough.
Supporting the middle class. This is the Jeff Santos Show.
$33 minutes past the hour. It is the Jeff Santos Show. You are tuned into, coming to you live from the South Coast here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We're here every Monday through Friday, 3 to 4 Eastern Time. That's 12 to 1 Pacific Time. And that's where we're going to go right now. Before we go to Larry Cohen, we're going to go to Mark, the labor leader there in San Francisco by the Bay. Mark, what say you, sir? I give you 60 seconds. What's on your mind today?
Yeah, real quickly. I mean, of course, we've got to make it easier to join unions and basically easier to negotiate contracts with companies. That's got to be done. But I still think the number one issue is income inequality, and that needs to be the discussion of the day. And that's got to be number one. And if the Democrats go on offense and start talking about it, they can explain to the American people how they've been basically being fleeced by the Republicans and the 1% in corporations. This is the discussion that needs to be out on the table, especially when they want to cut Social Security and Medicare and things that people need in this country. We need to have that discussion right now.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I have a feeling that our next guest, Larry Cohen, fellow labor official and someone like you who sat across those meeting tables would agree. Mark, I just tell you to complete this. It is so important for the Democrats to get their messaging going and to make a very, very big contrast with the Republican Party. But they have some of their own problems that they have, particularly, right-wing millionaires that they're connected to, who are Republicans and Democrat, basically stopping progressives. And that would stop people like Summerlee and what AOC started and so forth, running against Joe Crowley. That's could be a thing that we have to really give some consideration to. But I think you're spot on as usual, Mark. All right. So we go from San Francisco to the nation's capital, where we find our next guest joining us via video today. That's why yours truly is wearing the red sweatshirt, not anything else. He is the former president of Communication Workers of America, the chair of Our Revolution, also the former chair of the 2016 Bernie Sanders for President campaign. He is our good friend, regular here on Thursdays. Larry Cohen joins us via video. Larry, good afternoon, my friend.
Good to see you.
Good to see you. It's been a while, and I'm glad to see your red is a little bit brighter than mine, but I think we'll match. It looks pretty good.
Okay.
All right. So I want to start, I think, where our caller and good friend and your fellow labor folk has said, focusing on the issue of economic inequality. It's something I know you concern yourself. That's why you were a labor leader. That's why you're fighting with Bernie. That's why you're, the chair of Our Revolution. But, put some meat on that bone that was delivered by our good friend Mark, again, a former labor leader himself, and in the printing world, in the San Francisco Chronicle, Mercury News out there in the Bay Area.
Yeah, well, I would just say, the brief version would be, what are we fighting for? It's not enough to fight against the near fascist Republicans. And when we talk about what we're fighting for, it's many things, but we lead off with things that unite black, brown, and white, as I say it, working class people and families. And those are, that is an economic agenda. It's what you and others call, the unfinished economic Bill of Rights from FDR when he passed away. So, it's not just about economic inequality, I would say. It's about economic justice. And why is what many call the wealthiest country in the world near the bottom of any democracy on workers' rights to begin with, which means the right to raise your own standard of living, not with government money, just by bargaining power, so that the 1% of the 1% doesn't get, 99% of all the wealth that's created, but also things like Medicare for all, long-term care, whether for kids who are disabled or our parents. The list goes on. So I think the key is really to give people some sense that those things are within reach and not some kind of idealism.
Said very well, and I couldn't disagree with anything you just said. Look, it to me it's very frustrating when I hear reports, and I saw the email from Bernie Sanders last night that talked about, once again, and you've mentioned this, and you're a DNC member, that the Democratic Party is trying to prevent primary challenges, the likes which given as AOC and Summerlee and Cori Bush, and has stopped more corporate Democrats from continuing their role in the Democratic Party, black, white, brown. Here is my concern: is that this DNC meeting taking place in Philadelphia, your home city. I don't even know if it's going to be brought up in the agenda, but this has to be brought up because, again, if we're going to go, wall to wall and say this is who we are, and this is who the Republicans are, we all know the Republicans are. I mean, they're a fascist party, or soon to be one, that concern themselves only with the top 1% and 2%. But we got to be better. And we can't be if we're taking some of the similar money that they are taking it from and stopping people, from running against corporate Democrats. We saw it in Texas with Cuellar. We've seen it in other parts of the country too. Your thoughts on this? 'Cause I know this is something that you're very much engaged with and have been talking about in the past.
Yeah, that would be. I'm too engaged with it in certain ways, but so yeah, we have a group of what I'd call reformers within the DNC, about 60 or 70 of us, growing. And last summer, we put in a resolution to ban dark money in Democratic primaries. And that can be done. That's not regulated by Citizens United. The party is considered by the courts, even the Supreme Court, a private club, can regulate itself. And, that got, it didn't get discussed or debated. Put in the same resolution. I'm shortcutting this for this meeting. And again, the chair in the White House is controlling the party. I would say that on network television with an audience of millions, let alone here. So it's controlled by what I call the deep state of the White House. You don't know who the people are beside the president himself. And again, blocked from any discussion about the resolution that about 30 of us have signed on and submitted, significant number. No discussion, no debate. And it's about the Democratic Party. They want us to think that everything is about the Republican Party. And the Democratic Party in this recent cycle, 2-year cycle, far more money went into Democratic primaries than Republican primaries from what I call the dirty dark money. It's not just dark, meaning you don't know whose money it is. It's dirty. And the dirtiest was Sam Bankman-Fried, the crypto billionaire who's now facing, hopefully, lifetime in prison. His parents, who are law professors, amazingly, at Stanford, should go right along with him. And he's now confined to their house on $250 million bail. And yeah, I have a real hatred for people like this. Calls himself an effective altruist. And the money he put in was not altruism. It was tied to support for what I'll term nicely light crypto regulation in the Department of Agriculture.
Exactly.
And that's what he was. That's what he was after. And he calls it altruism. And groups that I like and that you would support, got one. I'm not going to mention them. One I learned today got $500,000 from him, and others that operate center, even center left, clearly were in collusion around the crypto regulation. And several of those nonprofit groups should go down the drain now as a result, because in this trial of him, it's coming to light. But he's only one of the forces. You have the groups who support Netanyahu, the most right-wing, I would call it fascist government of Israel ever.
Yep.
And they put in as much money as the crypto, they raise it from Republicans and put it in to defeat progressives. Let me just go to the positive. Our revolution and other groups actually elected about 6 more progressives than net. Now, several lost, like Andy Levin, who was in there before. And again, $11.5 million in dark, dirty money to defeat him in Michigan, an incumbent. With Emily's list, in that case, $3.5 million. Despicable. And Pelosi was well aware of this. She got $10 million from Bankman-Fried in her House Majority PAC. So this stuff goes deep. And then you have, the pharmaceuticals, the military-industrial, the insurance,
fossil fuels.
The worst. The fossil fuels, the worst. And when you add up that money inside Democratic Party primaries, because they all know that in most districts where Democrats and Republicans are elected, 80% of them, there is no general election contest. If there is, in 80% of them, it's a token candidate. And so, and the AOC thing, which our revolution endorsed her the first time she ran, we were the only national left group that did anything in that election, but we did endorse her. She got elected in that primary with 18,000 votes.
Yep.
To put that in context, Andy Levin lost because that was a sleeper. That dark money wasn't in that primary. Nobody thought she had a chance. She won, it may have been 16,000. She won by 2,000 votes in the primary. Andy Levin lost with 45,000 votes. The effect of the dark money saturating Detroit TV to turn out voters, including unaffiliated voters, and it's different in every state. It's what I said before about the party, different rules. Unaffiliated voters in Michigan pushed out by demonizing him to vote in the Democratic primary, and some Republican voters. So again, that's all about this resolution, which again today was blocked by the chair's office through the White House. We don't want anything about we don't want to even mention the money spent in Democratic primaries. They would be fine if we talked about the Republicans. And we told them, no, we're not going to pass another resolution about Republican dark money. The Democratic dark money stinks in the exact same way.
It makes me so angry because I want to see, and I know you do too. I call them pink hat Democrats, who really, they're on one side of the fence today and another side of the fence tomorrow. Come along with the progressives and get us a majority. But it's so frustrating when they are doing things that is exactly what the Republicans are doing. So how, in the end, and then I want to get to this question because we've been asking all of our great contributors that I'm lucky enough to have on, including you, this same question. See, I believe with what happened in the horrible thing in Memphis the other day, we just talked to our good friend Herb Boyd about it. Every time it seemed we would have him on, there's some kind of Michael Brown, there's Trayvon Martin, there's Floyd. It goes on and on and on since he's been on in 2014, 15. But I look at it this way, and to me, what you're talking about puts a roadblock in front of what I would like to do, and I think you would agree. Jesse Jackson said this. Jesse Jackson, who endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2020, Bernie Sanders, who endorsed Jesse Jackson in 1988, talked about the fact when Trump wanted to send in the National Guard to the south side of Chicago, he says, to heck with the, paraphrasing here, to heck with the National Guard. Send me HUD, send me DOT, send me monies to increase the minimum wage. And that's what we need. That's that will help the people in the south side. And it's the same thing with what's going on, in Memphis and all these other places with the brutality. I think you got to be able to look at this and say, we got to rebuild this country, and we got to rebuild healthcare, Medicare for all, education, free public university, put more teachers into the classrooms, put more people in jobs and less robots. You can talk about all of the things that Bernie has in his platform, connected to EBOR and what FDR did, 80, 90 years ago, and move the agenda forward. But we get stuck because we got some people who want to win ugly and will do the exact same thing that Republicans are doing. And it makes our job harder because we can't say, come with us. We're the Reform Party. We're going to make America better. We're going to give people in the African-American community the opportunity to have economic, educational reform that will help, and we'll have less people, going into police departments and doing what the Rizzo racist cops around this country, including Boston, for years have had. And we can't get the things done that we want to do. But to me, that's the only way to do it. We can't just say, well, we got to fix the police brutality issue and just talk about that because we're going to run into a wall with police unions. And we're going to run into a wall with, right-wing folks who are going to pour money into the police unions and so on and so forth. So we got to do it as a rebuild. I don't know how you feel about that, but to me, that's the only way to do it. But now, every time I hear about this dark money thing, I'm thinking it makes it harder for progressives to say, we as a Democratic Party are going to do differently, because it's not always the truth.
Well, that was a lot, but
yeah,
I could
sorry.
just say I think it was no. It's your show. I'm here to comment on you.
I mean, I'm just so annoyed.
Yeah, no, that was great. The one, so I would add, the only thing I would add to that is, I do think we need police reform in a massive way. So, in addition to what I heard Herb talking about at the end, economic justice in Black communities, particularly in terms of the things you just talked about, including housing, though. But I also think we
Another
have to
big
deal
part.
with how do we recruit police? They're well paid, and I'll give the associations, I never call them a union, they don't call themselves unions, some credit in the worst way for raising the pay. The pay is not an issue anymore. The pension is not an issue. The health care is not an issue. It's still dangerous. We shouldn't make light of that. But I know a little bit about how police get recruited in the rest of the world. And it's not like the United States, where they're overwhelmingly recruited as veterans in the next job out of the service. There's no regard to any kind of human rights background for those candidates. Nope. They might go through some classes now in the better cities. I could go on, but you can't, and not the least of which, just like there's a screen on so many things when police are recruited, there needs to be a screen against hatred that's very clear, and lots of questioning about people before they're hired. So, you don't fix this after the fact. A lot of it has to be fixed by how you define that job and how you recruit for that job, but recognize that because we have literally 46% of all the guns in the world are owned by Americans, there's going to be more violence here. It's obvious there's going to be more violence here. And so, we're caught in a conundrum with this. But I'll just stop by saying, Keith Ellison is one of the 8 people on the OR board. It's a small board because it's all about grassroots, not about a board. And, the Attorney General in Minnesota. And I'm very close to him. And the associations, the police associations in Minnesota, well-funded in this case, and this is Republicans, for the Republican candidate, almost defeated him after he led a brilliant legal team to convict the killers of George Floyd. And they literally, police associations went door to door, all through, not in Minneapolis or St. Paul, but all through, the remaining
Iron
90%
Range and
of
all those
Minnesota.
places. Yeah.
Well, virtually everywhere else, to defeat him, saying, we can't be there for you. If you're not there for us, this guy convicted cops. And so the role that those associations play is beyond belief. And I call them, they are associations, that's their own name. But the basis of a union is solidarity, not just with yourself or your sister or brother who works with you, but with working people. And they practice zero of it. I can't think of one case ever. I'm sure there is one. And I'm talking about in the last 20, 30 years, where they were there for workers' fights. So they don't act like unions. They don't call themselves unions. They get called that by others. And it's a semantic thing. That's not the real problem. But the point is that we need to recruit people who are there for public safety and who have a background that shows they understand human rights. Human rights first. The gun comes second.
As I said, go back to the TV show, which I think was very real at the time and still real today, the Hill Street Blues idea. They had people on that show that could actually, try to talk somebody down, not just give them a SWAT team and shoot them from the, nearby, rooftop. And, that's what we need more of. And it's always this attack mode. You get in there, it's like, kill the receiver in football. And that mentality of the ball carrier.
Exactly.
And it's just has to end. This is vicious, violent approach. And it's done, unfortunately, by anybody who joins the police force, whether you're a Latino or an African-American, as we saw in Memphis, tragically. All right, I want to take a call. You mentioned Minnesota. Let's go to Minnesota, talk to our good friend John. If we have time, we're going to go to Los Angeles and talk to Tom. Both cities know about police violence. John, you are next with Larry Cohen. Go right ahead.
If it wasn't for Keith Ellison, I think that whole trial would have gone in favor of Chauvin and not in favor of the Floyd family. It would have been so different, and that is why he took control of that. And yeah, absolutely, that almost cost him re-election. And he's a great attorney general. He goes after the insurance companies, the utility companies. He's not pro-business, and the person that ran against him using that excuse of policing would have also, been much more pro-business and would have pushed for, very, flimsy kinds of regulations and whatnot. It wouldn't have attacked utility companies in the same way and insurance companies in the same way that Keith Ellison has. So, it really was a good thing that he stuck his neck out, and almost, lost the election in his political career. But, he had the courage to do that. But, Larry is absolutely right. It was all the areas outside of this city. And this city is controlled by the police department, and it has been for years. And there was one mayor that tried to change that, and she was
you've mentioned it many times. John,
I just want to thank
really
John. I'm just going to jump in to say, John, I just want to thank you. You just did a brilliant job of describing all that firsthand, as opposed to me, even though I know Keith well and we worked on that campaign from a distance. That was terrific.
Thank you, John. John is one of our best callers, and just amazing man. Thank you, and Puck thanks you as well, as does Larry's dog. Thank you, John. All right, let's go quickly to Los Angeles. 35 seconds for our good friend Tom in the city of Angels. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, Jeff. First, we the people are the government. We must never forget that. Ultimately, we are the government. Second, I just wanted to say the conservatives' new definition of woke is a way to shut down communication and dialogue. So people are talking about social issues and emotionally charged issues rather than talking about things like income inequality. This is the whole idea of this is so the donors and the rich keep people staying sleeping and are not awakened or aware by the billionaire class and donors fleecing America.
Well said, Tom. Larry?
I totally agree. It's all connected. I think that's what this whole segment shows, including your great description, Jeff, of the things we must do to deal with economic justice in America, as opposed to just trying to focus on violence by itself. Enough from me. We got to unite these things and build a movement that unites the people.
We do.
So that as Tom said, we the people can have a real voice.
Well, it's so important. It's so important to again join our revolution and to become part of what the Bernie dream was, and what Larry and Paco and the rest of the team are doing there at our revolution. Thank you, Larry. So great to have you back. Good to see you. Say hi to the dog for me, and we'll talk to you next week.
Okay. Be well. Be strong.
Thank you, man. You too. All right, folks, I want to thank our great friends Dan and Freddie Santori, as well as Josh, for producing this broadcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in and viewing us anytime on Facebook, Twitch, and, of course, YouTube. Until tomorrow, my friends, my name is Jeff Santos. Keep on fighting peacefully. And right now, my time to say I gotta go.